In the Christmas break of my freshman year, I returned home for celebration, Christmas and everything, right?
Yes.
So we were preparing for New Year's. And
What happens when a woman who raised America on screen finds herself at the center of its reckoning? Figures across all artistic disciplines, from filmmakers and authors to musicians and other celebrities whose personal lives have come under ethical and legal scrutiny. But what makes the Cosby Show debate uniquely potent is how deeply it was embedded in the moral fabric of American pop culture, and how central Phylicia Rashad was to that vision. Phylicia, in particular, has faced some of the harshest and most complex reactions. Early in the public resurgence of allegations, she made comments defending Bill Cosby, statements that were met with a firestorm of backlash. Her words, "Forget these women. What you're seeing is a destruction of legacy," were widely criticized for their insensitivity to survivors, though she later issued clarifying remarks, stating she supported survivors of sexual assault and that her comments were misunderstood. The damage to her public image, for some, was already done. Yet, even in controversy, Phylicia's reaction revealed the impossible position many actors, especially black women, find themselves when navigating loyalty, legacy, and justice. To many, her defense was betrayal. To others, it was an expression of complicated human emotion, born from decades of friendship and shared creative history. She was not just defending a man, but a body of work she helped build, a cultural achievement that elevated the image of black families at a time when few positive representations existed. And this is where Phylicia Rashad's legacy becomes both powerful and painful. It exists at the crossroads of triumph and tragedy, beauty and betrayal. She was the face of a cultural revolution, yet found herself tethered to the fall of its architect. And through it all, she remained composed, often quiet, and occasionally defiant, a reflection of the same graceful resolve that defined Claire Huxtable. The enduring question around Phylicia Rashad is not whether she was a remarkable actress. That is beyond dispute. It's how we reconcile the legacy of someone who brought light to millions while being intimately tied to someone whose actions caused profound harm. Perhaps, in the end, the lesson from Phylicia Rashad's journey, from the stages of Broadway to the halls of Howard University, from the top of primetime television to the heart of a cultural reckoning, is that no legacy is simple. Greatness can be complicated, icons can be flawed, and the art they leave behind can be both a balm and a burden. Still, Phylicia Rashad endures. As an actress, a mentor, a dean, and a symbol of refined excellence, she continues to inspire. Her body of work, especially in theater and education, remains a testament to her vision of what black art can be, elevating, powerful, and rooted in dignity. She may always be remembered as Claire Huxtable, but to those who have followed her journey closely, she is so much more. She is, in every sense, a woman who has walked with purpose, through applause, through criticism, through history itself, and never lost her poise. The debate is not unique to the Cosby Show. It echoes similar discussions about problematic figures in the arts. Can we separate the art from the artist? Should beloved cultural products remain in the public sphere if their creators have committed harm? With the Cosby Show, the pain feels especially personal because it meant so much to so many, and the betrayal felt collective. Phylicia Rashad found herself in the eye of this cultural storm. Phylicia's response to the allegations was watched closely by fans and critics alike. Known for her loyalty and dignity, she initially remained largely silent. But when she did speak, her comments sparked both support and criticism. In 2015, she was quoted as saying, "Forget these women. What you're seeing is a destruction of a legacy." Though she later clarified that her words had been misinterpreted and that she did not mean to dismiss the pain of survivors, the damage was done. To many, her defense of Cosby appeared tone-deaf, especially in a society increasingly intolerant of silence or complicity in the face of abuse. Others interpreted her reaction differently, not as a denial of wrongdoing, but as an attempt to protect a legacy of a show that represented so much more than one man. Her statements were seen as an effort to salvage what the Cosby Show had achieved for black visibility, pride, and family representation on television. Years later, in 2021, after the Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned Cosby's conviction, Rashad tweeted her support. "Finally, a terrible wrong is being righted. A miscarriage of justice is corrected." The backlash was immediate and intense. particularly because by that point, Rashad had taken on the high-profile position of Dean of the Chadwick A. Boseman College of Fine Arts at Howard University. Students, alumni, and the broader public criticized the message as insensitive and misaligned with her new role as a leader and educator of young artists. Rashad quickly issued a follow-up statement, affirming her support for survivors of sexual assault and stating her intention to engage in active listening and participate in training to become a stronger ally to survivors. Howard University also responded, stating that while her personal views did not reflect those of the institution, her tweet had not violated any university policy. Still, the incident exposed a larger tension: how to reckon with a personal and professional bond forged over decades without alienating a new generation deeply committed to justice and accountability. In evaluating Rashad's journey, one must consider the emotional complexity of loyalty, trauma, and memory. Phylicia Rashad wasn't just a co-star. She was part of a once-in-a-generation cultural moment. The Cosby Show wasn't merely a sitcom. It was a pioneering force in media, a declaration that black families could be multifaceted, educated, affluent, loving, and humorous. That message wasn't Cosby's alone. It was embodied by the entire cast, none more so than Phylicia Rashad. When viewers remember Claire Huxtable, they don't just recall clever comebacks or eloquent speeches. They remember the feeling of being seen, represented, and dignified. They remember the grace with which Rashad navigated every scene, her posture, her cadence, her gentle, firm authority. Those memories are deeply entangled with viewers' own experiences. Many saw themselves or their families reflected in the Huxtables, often for the first time. The revelation of Cosby's abuses made those memories painful and confusing. But Rashad's legacy as an actress and educator is not built solely on her connection to that show. It is built on a lifetime of artistic excellence, cultural contribution, and generational mentorship. As Dean of Howard University's College of Fine Arts, Rashad has taken on a role that suits her, an icon becoming an institutional guide. Her presence at Howard is more than symbolic. She represents continuity between the past and the present, a bridge between the generation that demanded entry into cultural spaces and the one now redefining them. She has worked to modernize the curriculum, diversify artistic training, and ensure that Howard remains at the forefront of black creative education. Students speak of her as a thoughtful and sometimes intimidating presence, a person of immense knowledge who expects discipline and excellence. But they also speak of her warmth, her willingness to engage, and the power of simply being in her presence. That duality, authority and grace, has defined her career. She is not a celebrity chasing the spotlight. She is a serious artist, teacher, and elder. Her presence commands reverence not because of past fame, but because of lived wisdom. In an industry where so many fade with time, Rashad has remained not just relevant, but essential. She mentors emerging talent, directs classic plays, and continues to act in film and television. In each role, she brings the same depth of presence, the same stillness that seems to draw the world in around her. Phylicia Rashad's legacy is undeniably complex, shaped by beauty, brilliance, and controversy. She is an emblem of artistic excellence and cultural pride. But like so many black women in the public eye, she has also carried the burden of expectation. She has had to be everything: strong but warm, elegant but relatable, accomplished but humble, loyal but just. Her connection to Cosby has complicated her public perception, yes, but has also highlighted the impossible balancing act many women in her position have faced. How to protect a legacy without being seen as defending harm. How to honor creative achievement while acknowledging the pain behind it. In recent interviews, Rashad has begun to reflect more candidly. She speaks of the love that permeated the Cosby Show set, the joy of crafting something meaningful, and the heartbreak of watching that legacy unravel. She does not pretend to have all the answers. Instead, she offers nuance, an honesty that does excuse, but also doesn't erase. That honesty matters, because in a world eager for binaries, heroes and villains, saints and sinners, Phylicia Rashad reminds us that cultural icons are human. They carry contradictions, just like the rest of us. And those contradictions don't diminish their value, they deepen it. Today, when you mention Phylicia Rashad, the associations are not singular. She is Claire Huxtable. She is Lena Younger on Broadway. She is the regal Dina Howard. She is a mentor, a survivor of a fraught cultural reckoning, and a living embodiment of Black artistic excellence. Her impact spans generations and mediums, institutions and ideologies. For every young Black actress stepping onto a stage, for every student entering a conservatory unsure whether their voice will be heard, Rashad's presence is proof that art, when pursued with purpose, can change everything. She has helped raise a generation not just of performers, but of thinkers, artists who understand that what they say on stage matters just as much as how they say it. The legacy of Phylicia Rashad is not confined to any single era or character, though many will always associate her most indelibly with Claire Huxtable. What elevates her place in cultural memory is the rare alchemy of elegance, conviction, and vulnerability she brings to every role, on and off the screen. Her artistry is rooted in discipline and tradition, not merely charisma or celebrity, and she has carried that same intentionality into her public life, whether that meant advocating for theater, mentoring the next generation, or navigating the minefields of contemporary social accountability. In recent years, as conversations around justice, harm, and institutional complicity have accelerated, Rashad's public image has become a crucible for larger societal tensions. These tensions aren't just about one woman's statements or loyalties. They reflect the growing pains of culture learning how to reconcile love for legacy with the demands of moral clarity. In the wake of the Cosby revelations, millions found themselves asking what it meant to have grown up shaped by a show whose central figure had betrayed the very values it claimed to espouse. For many Black families, the Cosby Show was more than just television. It was affirmation. It was proof that Black joy, intellect, and family life could be seen as aspirational and worthy of center stage in American culture. It countered decades of media misrepresentation that had reduced Blackness to caricature or pathology. The Huxtables were aspirational, not because they were perfect, but because they were complex, warm, and deeply human. Rashad's Claire Huxtable, in particular, stood as a lighthouse, a symbol of what Black womanhood could be when unshackled from stereotype. Brilliant, sharp, unyielding, and loving. The betrayal of Cosby, then, was not just personal. It threatened to collapse an entire scaffold of representation that had meant the world to millions. And Rashad, by proximity and history, was caught in that cultural collapse. But the scrutiny directed at Rashad wasn't merely about her proximity to Cosby. It was about what she represents. The tension between past and present, between earned reverence and a newer era's hunger for accountability. Younger generations, shaped by movements like #MeToo, Black Lives Matter, and a broader awareness of systemic injustice, often view silence or ambivalence in the face of harm as complicity. For many, Rashad's initial response to Cosby's downfall felt like a painful reminder that even our most beloved elders can struggle to adapt to a shifting moral consensus. To some, her loyalty appeared as a form of blindness, but to others, especially those who came of age with her work as a cultural touchstone, it was read more sympathetically, as a reflection of deep personal loyalty, a belief in due process, and perhaps even a quiet hope that not everything beautiful must be destroyed by the truth. Yet such loyalty exists in tension with the demands of justice, and that tension is precisely where Rashad's story becomes emblematic. She is not alone in facing these dilemmas. Across industries, cultural elders have been forced to reckon with how the values they were shaped by no longer align with the urgent moral imperatives of today. Rashad's response to these reckonings hasn't been defensive so much as complex. Her follow-up statements, public apologies, and commitments to listening more deeply to survivors signal not a refusal to evolve, but a slow, sometimes faltering, engagement with the ethics of a new era. For someone raised in the conservatories of elite Black performance, whose generation fought tooth and nail for space on screen and on stage, the idea that their hard-won legacies could be erased or overshadowed is a bitter one. But Rashad, more than many of her peers, seems to be grappling with that truth in real time, learning that legacy cannot be preserved through silence, and that grace now requires more than poise. It demands vulnerability and accountability. It is also crucial to understand how Rashad's artistry cannot be reduced to a single role or moment. Before she was Claire Huxtable, she was a classically trained stage actress, a commanding presence in August Wilson plays and Shakespearean tragedies. Her theater work has always run parallel to her television fame, and in some circles, it's where she is most revered. On stage, she is regal, deliberate, magnetic. Critics have praised her ability to bring pathos and complexity to roles that might otherwise lean towards stereotype. Whether as Lena Younger in A Raisin in the Sun or as Aunt Esther in Gem of the Ocean, Rashad evokes ancestry and memory, embodying the generational weight black women so often carry in silence. Her characters are rarely loud, but they reverberate, echoing long after the curtain falls. As a director, she brings that same sensitivity to her craft. Her work behind the scenes, especially in regional and university theaters, has helped foster a generation of black actors, playwrights, and technicians who might not otherwise have found mentorship within traditional arts institutions. She is a steward of black storytelling, committed to ensuring that stories are told with integrity and depth. In classrooms, she's known to push her students hard, but also to believe in them deeply. She teaches not only the mechanics of acting, but the discipline of excellence, the quiet rituals of repetition, precision, and emotional honesty that make true artistry possible. And yet, for all her gravitas, Rashad is not humorless or distant. Those who have worked with her speak of her warmth, her curiosity, her generous spirit. She listens more than she speaks, but when she does speak, her words carry weight. Her cultural fluency is not confined to high art. She understands pop culture, youth culture, and the ever-changing media landscape. She doesn't always agree with it, but she doesn't dismiss it either. Her mentorship, especially at Howard, reflects a commitment to understanding, not just teaching what she knows, but learning what she doesn't. In this sense, Phylicia Rashad occupies a rare and sacred space in American life. She is both an icon and a witness. She has seen the arc of representation stretch from invisibility to visibility, from tokenism to nuance, and she has helped shape that arc, not as a passive figure, but as an architect. It is too simplistic to ask whether she has fallen or been canceled. More accurately, she is navigating the treacherous waters that all legacy figures must eventually wade through, a cultural shift that demands not just that we honor the past, but that we interrogate it. This reckoning is not always kind, but it is necessary. If we are to move forward, we must be willing to confront the complexity of our heroes. Phylicia Rashad has not always said the perfect thing, but she has remained present, engaged, and thoughtful. She has not fled from the conversation, nor has she clung stubbornly to defensiveness. She is still here, teaching, performing, listening. And in that presence is a kind of courage, a willingness to stand in the discomfort rather than retreat from it. Her continued relevance is testament to the depth of her craft and character. In an age where fame is often fleeting and performance is confused with persona, Rashad's endurance feels radical. She is not merely famous. She is respected. That respect is hard-earned, forged in decades of excellence, grace, and yes, contradiction. Her story reminds us that legacies are not monoliths. They are living, evolving things, capable of holding both brilliance and flaw, both reverence and critique. If the story of Phylicia Rashad teaches us anything, it is that we must make room for complexity. We must allow our icons to be human, to err, to learn, to change. We can love them not because they are perfect, but because they have given us something real. Rashad's work, on screen, on stage, and in the classroom, has expanded our sense of what black womanhood can be. She has modeled beauty without vanity, intellect without arrogance, strength without cruelty. In the long arc of American cultural history, Phylicia Rashad's story is one of endurance and grace. She has navigated the highs of public adoration and the lows of controversy with a rare kind of fortitude. She has shown us what it means to carry beauty with substance, intellect with heart, tradition with progress. Phylicia Rashad does not need defending, nor does she ask for it. Her legacy, like all enduring legacies, is both radiant and flawed. But it is hers, earned through decades of discipline, talent, and unwavering commitment to her craft. For many, she remains a mirror, reflecting not only who we are, but who we aspire to be. In the end, the Cosby Show may carry a legacy fractured by scandal, but the woman who brought Claire Huxtable to life has transcended it. Phylicia Rashad stands on her own, not just as a former sitcom star, but as a cultural architect, a master of her craft, and a guide for generations to come. History will remember her not just for what she portrayed, but for what she proved, that black women can embody excellence, even when walking through the shadows, and that grace, when lived honestly, leaves an indelible mark. If this story made you feel, reflect, or rethink what you thought you knew, let us know in the comments. These aren't just celebrity tales, they're cultural touchstones. Tap like, subscribe, and join us in the next story behind the face you thought you knew.